The Eldin region has another fantastic dungeon that is created within the Eldin Volcano, called the Fire Sanctuary. This incredible build has seen better days, but it is not entirely broken apart like the Earth Temple was. Instead, this temple seems to be damaged slightly, but the environment is now a part of the lava instead of being built over it. In our last theory video, the Earth Temple, we discussed major things like who built the Earth Temple, what could it have been inspired by, and what happened to the temple. The Fire Sanctuary is, like the name implies, a sanctuary of protection for the fiery flame of Din. The flame of Din is one of the 3 flames that Link has to collect and imbue inside the Skyward Sword to create the Master Sword, the Sword of Evil's Bane. That the flame is inside this temple means that whoever designed and created the temple here worshipped not only the flame itself, but also its traits. Din, the golden goddess of fire, power, strength, the color red or purple, all these traits are part of this ancient place. But who built this incredible area? The Fire Sanctuary is a little different from the Earth Temple, as it has quite a lot of different symbols compared to what we have seen before. The elephant statues, for example, are now gone and have been replaced by other entities. More birds can be found this time, like the 2 owls at the entrance guarding the first room. Now, these owls are all just, as we all know, just birds, but they're not just your typical birds. Owls are, in my different aspects of mythology, wise creatures, and they keep watch and guide things through life. It is also one of the reasons why Kepora Kebora has the form of an owl, and it might be the connection to the first people, or the Proto-Hylians. And there's another interesting direction to these owls. Agni, a word that means fire in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of Hinduism, has also the shape of a bird of fire. For anyone that is interested into any kind of mythology, most likely heard about the creature called the phoenix, a firebird that has the power to reincarnate after it died. The reason why I brought this up might blow your mind a little bit. Agni is also connected to the story of the Trinities, the Creator, the Maintainer and the Destroyer story, which sounds a little like the Triforce of wisdom, courage and power. Agni has a twin brother called Indra, and Indra rides on a white elephant. You know, the statues we saw in the Earth Temple? And Indra is the god of storms, rain and war. And together with Surya, another god that ruled the sky and the heavens. Everything in the Fire Sanctuary, the walls, the rooms, everything surrounds you with the feeling of mythology. And the many sun symbols scattered everywhere around the temple explains to us that not only was fire being worshipped here, but also the sun itself. This part might be very small to you as a viewer, but it is very significant to the build of the sanctuary. As in the Earth Temple, the sun symbol can be found here as well. The Gerudo tribe that appeared for the first time in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time also worshipped the sun, as the Spirit Temple, or the hideout of the Gerudo King, had tons of suns hanging on the walls. It can be found in other parts of that game as well, but it is here that it was the most important part of the game. The Spirit Temple, with the embodiment of the giant Naga goddess, another reference to Hinduism, but with an Egyptian touch to it. And in The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, we find more statues and much smaller, yet still present in the desert within the Arbiter grounds. Could it be that the Fire Sanctuary was once the home of the Proto-Hylians that eventually evolved into the Gerudo tribe? Did they build the Earth Temple and the Fire Sanctuary? And if so, where did they go? Well, I might have the answer, which I will explain much further into the video. Hello everybody, before I continue on, I would like to use this small fraction of the video to ask you to subscribe to this channel. And I also have another channel which is a Let's Play channel, which has pretty much the same name. It doesn't take a lot of energy and it's all free as well. I greatly appreciate your time and your support. I am a small channel after all, and the content that I create is only for a very small audience, so it is already hard for me to reach the masses. Well, now that I've got that out of the way, let's continue with the theory. The entire structure of the Fire Sanctuary looks to have a few references to real-life buildings. The many arcs we can find around the place reminds me quite a lot of what we can find within mosques all around the world. This arc here, for example, reminds me of the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba. The arcs around the structure within look very identical. The large red pillars going up into the sky look like minarets, which are always built next to mosques, and have to bring up something that might be a total coincidence, or maybe it's not, but look at this fence right here and look at the way how the structure is of the fence itself. It has the shape of a diamond, the same shape that Girahim has around him. But look at the architecture of this Cambodian jungle temple. The pattern of the walls right here are the exact walls of the Zonai tribe. I'll put them side by side for comparison. See how they are the same? This is what Nintendo does as they look at real life architecture and reshape it in their video games with all kinds of different designs. Most people believe that most details in games are just coincidences, but usually they tend to be parts or assets from other games, reused for whatever the developer wants. But here we can clearly see that it might have already influenced Nintendo to create these shapes, and as the consoles became graphically stronger, they kept the idea and just make it look better. That's why we can find it again in Breath of the Wild. That is why we find the swirl symbol in the other games, because they are all the same except reshaped because of the graphical designs of the other games. There is a frog above a door that asks for water in order for Link to open the door. After doing some research, I managed to find a legend about it, and it might be the reference to this frog. The story is about the Sanskrit legend called Beki, and it was the symbol of the sun, which corresponds to all the sun symbolism of the sanctuary. Link has to give this frog a drop of water in order to remove the fire barriers. In this legend, however, Beki was a beautiful woman. A king asked her to be his wife, so she eventually married him, but on the condition that he should never show her a drop of water. One day, she asked the king for some water to see if he forgot his promise, which he eventually did, and gave her some water. Because he broke his promise, Beki, the frog, vanished without a trace. The frog is a metaphor for the sun, as the frog stood at the end of the horizon, and if the frog touched the water, just like the sun does, it vanished from our sight. In my interpretation, the king might have been the earth itself, and if so, what makes sense with the entire sanctuary, because there's also something called the Earth Temple, and the Oni makes it return once again, but this time there are blue instead of red. These creatures are shown with their mouths open wide, with long white hair all around the head and long teeth on the sides of the mouth. The Bokoblins inside the sanctuary makes their return as well, and there are now in multiple colors, green, blue and red. And two strange creatures inside lava with their mouth open can be seen only in one area. One has his eyes open, the other one closed. They seem to look like the Bokoblins as they have the same teeth like them. Now to end the last part of the video, we reach the boss room, where Girahim awaits to fight our hero once again. This entire room is filled with secrets, and the cutscene shows these hidden clues right in front of our noses. The first part is right on the ground, as like in other parts of the sanctuary, a huge sun symbol is shown right in the center of the room. Not only does it look like to show Zonai swirls, but there are also 8 of these swirls. What this means is that long ago, before the civilization collapsed because of the First War, there stood 8 people in these swirls, praying to the goddess of fire, with the circle in the middle being similar to what we saw in the sacred realm that was created ages later. That there are 8 swirls here means that it doesn't necessarily mean the sun, but more the Dharma chakra, with the 8 swirls being the 8 parts of the wheel of Dharma. In this picture, you can see the shape of the walls that can be found all around the sanctuary, and if I put this picture right next to it, you can see how the shape matches these walls. That is because it's all part of Asian religious beliefs that connects everything together. The cranes in the room with their crowns on their heads can be a multitude of birds. It could be the phoenix that I spoke about earlier, to the vermilion bird that has the symbolism of the fire element. The sanctuary, however, is in the north, which is the vermilion bird does not represent, as it is the symbolism of the south. Between these two bird statues is a mural written on the wall that Girahim proudly presents to Link. Here it is explained by Girahim that there are two existing time portals within the early lands of Proto-Hyrule. One at the sealed grounds and one at the Temple of Time in the Laneriu Desert that was once a proud forest seen at the dead tree that is very close by. But now it is a desert. The Gerudo tribe, living and dominating the desert many centuries later, aren't around yet in The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This is because their ancestor wasn't present yet within the lands of Proto-Hyrule. The two portals weren't just used to travel through time, but also to travel to these two locations. The Gerudo, a branch of the Proto-Hylian tribe, traveled to the Laneriu Desert and started a new life there, from the forest. Din, the goddess of power, was a lady, and it seems that the Gerudo always believed in her powers. And I might have figured out this particular reason of why there wasn't any male counterpart of a Gerudo unless it became a king in their tribe. Ganondorf showed up hundreds of years later as an evil Gerudo king, but he had predecessors that weren't evil at all. A male counterpart of a Gerudo was born every 100 years, and this male was capable of listening to the goddesses. The female counterparts of the Gerudo could not hear the goddesses at all, as they had chosen the darker path of life: evil, power, strength, and fire. They were the ones enraged by angry emotions, and that developed a non-magical bond with the creators of the world. Except for Din. Ganondorf was always destined to become the bearer of the Triforce of Power since his entire existence, and this is why the tribe of the Fire Sanctuary disappeared before The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Most of them got devoured by the First War, but their ancestor survived. It explains why only the male Gerudo are capable of listening to the holy powers, and their counterparts do not, and this inspired the Gerudo to create an entire religion based on the Woman of the Sands. In Breath of the Wild, however, this finally might have evolved, and the goddesses learned that the Gerudo aren't evil anymore, and so they are now also able to hear them, like the first people were able to do. This created a more magical and stronger race of Gerudos, but there is still one waiting to be discovered, one that is about to be unleashed upon the world.